horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, and I have another Christmas-themed horror film. Now, this is one that originally I wasn't planning on doing. It wasn't in my original list to do. I thought about it, and then I thought, well, I've kind of already done everything I wanted to do, so what else is there? And I found it for free on YouTube, so I thought, I did the first one, so why not? And it is a cult classic. There are a lot of people that do like this film. 1987's Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. Which, I will say, I have not seen in its entirety, start to finish, before just now. I grew up with this film. I love this film to death. I first saw it, geez, over 15 years ago. I was a young kid when I saw it. I found it on VHS. I bought this DVD probably 10 years ago, back when it was still out of print. I still love this. This is one of my all-time favorite slashers. It's my favorite Christmas horror film. And so much, it's one of my favorite slashers, so much so that I wish it wasn't a franchise. It works by itself so well. It is easier to do with a franchise like this because even more than Hellraiser, where after 4 that really dips off and really doesn't have anything to do with Hellraiser beyond that point. With this, like, with Part 2, it is a sequel. It kind of continues, I guess. It does, technically. But then Part 3, like, I guess Ricky is in it just barely. But it goes off on its own story. And then 4 and 5 is completely unrelated. So it is kind of easy to disregard the franchise, at least for Silent Night, Deadly Night. Now, Part 2... it was directed by Lee Harry, who he also directed a film called Street Soldiers, a revenge martial arts film that I've never seen. I guess that's not really known for anything else. Produced by Lawrence Applebaum. Screenplay, Lee Harry, Joseph H. Hurl. Story by 4 people. Lee Harry, Joseph H. Hurl, Dennis Patterson, Lawrence Applebaum. Now, originally, Lee Harry was tasked with... I think he started off as like an editor. And they wanted him to re-edit this film so they could re-release it, I'm guessing, as something else. Because if you don't know the controversy about this film, I did review this last year, so go over to my review for that and check it out. But this was very controversial when it came out 3 years prior in 84. It was pulled from theaters. It was released at the end of November. I don't even think it made it to December. It definitely didn't make it till Christmas because... angry parents and people just protested. It got pulled. So I think that was the conceit, at least. Re-edit this, repackage it, sell it as something else. But he demanded to do new footage, make a true sequel. This is going to be an easier one to talk about because the first 40 minutes of this 88-minute movie, the first 40 minutes is all flashbacks of this film. It opens up with Ricky, the younger brother of Billy in the first film, which he goes by Ricky Caldwell, but Billy is still Billy Chapman. And the only family that we get that adopted Ricky was the Rosenbergs. I don't know where Caldwell comes from. But he's played by Eric Freeman. And Eric Freeman, I don't think really has acted much Outside. Notable guest appearance on the show Superboy. Several episodes of In Living Color. TV show Dangerous Curves. I think this was his only film. And then he really fell into obscurity. I think he gave up on acting. Years active, 84 to 92, 2016 to present. In fact, I know part 2, along with part 1, did just get a newer Blu-ray release from Scream Factory. I'm plenty happy with this. I do know there's some scenes that are incredibly grainy, because I guess they were added, and it did get the full restored transfer. If there's features, maybe. Part 2, I'm not entirely interested. I mean, it is a bad movie. It's entertaining. It's very entertaining. Which actually, why don't I get that out of the way? Played by Eric Freeman. So, the thing about this movie is, yes, it's a bad movie across the board. The only good things I can give it that's genuinely good would be some of the music. The music for the opening credits, end credits, probably I think it's the same piece, and when he first embarks on his killing spree. That's music that works. The opening credit music does have that good 80s, I guess, slasher type music. It reminded me of Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Reminded me of that score a bit. But just the acting, the production, everything is so piss poor in this movie. But here's the thing. It's kind of like Troll 2 or The Room, Plan 9 from Outer Space as being among the worst films ever written or ever made. The difference between those bad movies, which I think Troll 2, they were trying to make the worst movie, but otherwise, it's done very innocently. Like, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, I think they were genuinely making, or they thought they were making a genuinely serious movie. I don't know how, but, or maybe a humorous but serious movie. When you get ones like the Sharknado series or Ginger Dead Man, a lot of trauma films, I'll even say Jack Frost, even though I kind of like that movie. When they're or the was it Seltzer, Rosenberg, whatever, the like disaster movie, superhero movie, movies. When you try to make a bad movie, it fails most of the time, and it's just seen like it doesn't get notoriety for being bad. Movies like this, In the Room, and Plan 9 from Outer Space, they thought they were making a good movie, which makes all the flaws and the terribleness of it just that much better. So that's why there's like so bad it's good, and then there's just pure shit. And I can say, as bad as this movie was, it was entertaining. So the first 40 minutes, it opens up, Ricky, played by Eric Freeman, he's in jail. They're setting up this turntable for this doctor to come in, I guess, to analyze him. And Eric Freeman, his performance is all poor line delivery and eyebrows. That's all it is. I mean, his line delivery is like he's saying something how lucky like, aren't you lucky? You're shrink number 13. Or, red car. Good point. Just very intense but bad line delivery. In his eyebrows, he's like, well, Doc. Yeah, too fast for you? He acts with his eyebrows more than Johnny Depp does in the silliest of Tim Burton films. So the first 40 minutes, it's everything about the first movie. How parents got killed, raised in the orphanage. I hated that fucking place. It even shows bits of the film where Ricky and Billy were not present, like when Sister Margaret and Mother Superior are talking, neither one of them are present. So it's like, and also they do change some things. Like, I guess Billy was 7 instead of 5 when the parents were killed. So if you were a baby, how can anyone possibly remember that? I know because I was there. It's so fucking silly. But yeah, and we get from this film that Ricky is the very well-behaved, unaffected brother until Billy's killed. Then he says naughty for the sequel bait ending, or the ambiguous cliffhanger ending. But I should stop holding that up, even though I'd much rather talk about that film. And yeah, Billy filled him in about Santa, his parents, and the abuse he got. Makes it sound like he was abused as well. Even stuff he wasn't even really there for, like Billy's killing spree with the, Linnea Quigley and her boyfriend, the bullies that are sledding, the toy store. Even when it shows Billy as a kid, when he goes out to play and he hears the couple having sex, they change the couple. So it's like the couple that we see is different, or at least when we see their face. And then when it cuts back to to Ricky and the doctor, we get the silly back and forth. What, too fast, Doc? So 40 minutes, the first film ends. They even get a new kid to play Ricky from the end of the first film. And again, they change it around so much, but like if he was 7, if Billy was 7 at the beginning of the first film, that would have made him 20 by the time he becomes Killer Santa. But he says he was 18. Okay. But that would have made 14-year-old Ricky now, I guess, 11. But they get a new young actor to play Ricky. Says he was adopted by the Rosenbergs, who were a good family. And I guess his trigger is the color red. Like, when he sees the color red, that's when he gets all triggered. As opposed to more Santa and Christmas stuff like this from this film. Sees these nuns walking. He's all intense. Tries to get his adopted mom's attention. She looks. The nuns are gone. Goes back talking to her friend. Nuns come back. But they're in this one place where there's this red fabric, and that's when he gets all shaky. Like the first film, this is like 5 years later. So I guess he was like 16, but they got like an adult-looking actor. So they show him at, I guess, 16. But then when they show him at 18, it's Eric Freeman. So, again, like the first film, actors that don't look anything alike. Or like the present-day actor. He was going for a walk on these back roads. He came across this couple. Guys getting kind of rapey with her. He gets, of course, flashbacks of the parents' murder. Like in the first film, it was a rape that triggered him. The guy gets fed up, goes back to his red Jeep, but he's in it. He runs him over a bunch of times. And then the date, thanks him and walks off. So that's when we get the doctor's notebook that says red car. He's like, red car? Good point. It's almost after every line I have to say it's so silly because it is. And then the doctor asks about this girl, Jennifer, who is actually played by Elizabeth, was it Keaton? Elizabeth Keaton, which actually it's spelt differently. I did notice that. Here it's spelled Kaitan. Sometimes credited as Cayton, as it was in this. Which was this before? Yes, this was the year before Friday the 13th Part 7. She was the redheaded girl that got thrown out the window. So she was in that too. He's on his bike, his motorcycle. She's in her car, back into each other. They start dating. They go to the movie theater, and they're at the movie theater, and the movie they're watching is the Killer Santa portions of the first film before Billy. Like the guy that killed his parents, like when he's at like the quick stop and he kills the clerk. And even she's like, oh, this movie is about a guy that dresses up like Santa and kills people. And of course he's like, what? There's a guy behind him just being obnoxious. There's like this part where the guy's like, this movie's so stupid. He's like, gonna go down in the basement without a flashlight. So stupid. And then he does that, then like the third time Ricky's there, Jennifer's ex-boyfriend shows up and he's a total jerk off. But then we hear like a thud, like Ricky gets the obnoxious guy, and the camera cuts to him. It's like you see like feet kicking up from behind the seat with popcorn flailing. It's like, how do they know that wasn't going to be silly looking? She finally gets him to leave with his, I guess, date. Then Ricky comes back. And then they're going for a walk. They encounter her ex again. He starts talking shit. Ricky gets in his face. The guy has a red Mustang with the hood open. He's got jumper cables. He's holding the guy's head down. He takes the jumper cables. Now, I don't know anything about cars. I am a family full of mechanics. I don't know shit about cars. But I do know that the red jumper cable goes to positive, red to positive. So I don't think it would actually do anything. But okay. Like, that's the one issue I have with this film. Puts it in his mouth. And I will say the prosthetic head looks decent. Keeps shocking and sparking. He's got sunglasses and then they explode. And then, oh my God. She's berated Ricky the same way Pamela did Billy in the first film. And then he looks at her and she literally goes, like, there's an audible gulp, which always looks stupid. Grabs the antenna, strangles her, cop shows up. And he walks right up to him. He's able to take his hand and like turn it so the cop shoots himself. Takes his gun, and I could have swore there was more than 6 shots. Maybe not. But this is the most famous part of the film where he's just walking around down the street shooting people. And I mean, he's like, ha 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 ha. Shoots a guy coming outside. And then this has become one of the biggest memes ever. There's a guy taking out the trash. Cool shot of like, you know, garbage cans here, gets lifted. In the background there's Ricky and he's like, garbage day. Shoots the guy. Eventually cops show up. And ha 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 ha. Click. Oh, he also shoots at a car driving a few times. It flips over. Maybe there was more than 6 shots because it's a revolver. By the time the scene was over, I was like, fuck, I meant to count that. Maybe it was just 6. But click, no bullets. Cut back to the interview. Is like, no bullets. Young and stupid. That was my problem. And we see that the doctor has now been strangled with the tape from the reels. He escapes, goes after Mother Superior. He wants to do what Billy never could. There's another actress playing Sister Margaret, even though she has very little to do in this film. Is she even credited? Or is it even Sister Margaret? I don't think it is. Maybe not. What is that? No. That better not be. Okay, thank God. Never mind. But anyway. So, maybe it's not Sister Margaret. I thought it was. Oh, Sister Mary. Okay. But Ricky goes to the Salvation Army, kills the Santa that's outside, takes his costume because it takes place on Christmas Eve. We even see the bucket for donations, and it says, Santa wants you to give $1 for orphans or whatever. I was like, that's clever. But the sister is telling the police, who's now at the room where the dead doctor is. He's like, he's probably going to go after Mother Superior. And she says, well, the orphanage has been closed. She suffered a stroke. She lives alone. So, and we have a new actress. She's not played by Lillian Chauvin, which she should have been, because she was such a villain in the first movie. Like, she was just such a hateable character that by the time we get to this and what happens with it, would have had more of a payoff. Instead, she's played by Jean Miller. And yes, she is in a wheelchair like the end of the first film, but she has like these weird like bumps and bruising like on one side of her face. I don't know if that's part of the stroke. Okay. Doesn't really explain what it is. She almost looks like a burn victim or something. But so Ricky shows up. They kind of cat and mouse around the house. Eventually he gets to her. And yeah, she even says, like, you're weak like your brother. Which, even at the end of the first film, Mother Superior talks about how well behaved Ricky is and how unlike Billy he is. But then the sister and the police show up. They see Mother Superior sitting there. Of course, we all know what's going to happen. Sister walks up, shakes her shoulder, head rolls off, which, yeah, she's still wearing her nun clothes, you know, with the big white collar. Not a drop of blood anywhere, but okay. And then Billy, I keep calling him Billy. Then Ricky comes out, they shoot him twice with a pistol, then a shotgun, blast him through the window. And of course, before it ends, we get a shot of Ricky opening his eyes and smiling at the camera before we go to end credits. Which even here says the final shot shows Billy's arm dressed in a Santa suit, plunging a knife into the... That's from Billy's dream sequence in the first film when he's in bed with Pamela, when we see the Santas with the switchblade. And then freeze frame, credits. And that's the end of the movie. I mean, there are some cuts that it uses from the first film with new music, and it really doesn't work. Whether it be some of the kills or the scenes with the bullies sledding, the music doesn't work at all. Especially with the sledding. That worked much better with dead silence. And then music when Billy comes up, or when the head, that just dark, ominous music as the headless body on the sled comes down the hill. So a lot of the music didn't work. I like the music from the opening credits, and then when he's initially on his killing spree, just that, or however it goes. Yeah, it's incredibly silly. I don't know how they would have thought this was going to be a serious film. I really don't. Especially with Eric Freeman's performance. And yeah, Garbage Day has become one of the biggest memes known to the internet. It would have been nice if this just stayed by itself. I do understand the cult following for this film. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I saw it once. I can say I've seen it. It was humorous, but... And yeah, I guess you could two birds the whole thing by just watching this. Because you get the highlights of this film, and then you get all the new material. Literally half and half. But I'd much rather just watch this. As slow as this can be at times. And also, the only real Christmas aesthetic we get is the flashbacks, and then when he goes after Mother Superior. That's really it. He doesn't even wear the Santa suit until he goes after her at the end. and then, like I said, Billy is, I think, only in a couple scenes in part 3. It's really more about, I think, this like clairvoyant girl. And then 4 and 5, completely unrelated. Shouldn't even be called Silent Night, Deadly Night. So it is easier to dismiss the franchise and just like this film, which I do. I still love this to death. This is a good movie to laugh at, to poke fun at. But yeah, it is easier to enjoy a film that thought it was going to be taken seriously, maybe humorous, but seriously, and failed. It became one of the worst films ever. Then ones that just try to be bad, like Sharknado, Ginger Dead Man, and all that stuff. There was one... I guess Eric Freeman is involved. He actually had to be tracked down because no one knew where he was for the Scream Factory release. It would be interesting to see maybe like a making of, if there is one. But, and I know I've reviewed a lot of bad films that thought they were going to be serious and just totally ranted on them. But I don't know, some of them have a charm. I will say this does have a charm to it. I mean, I guess more contemporary, you have like Ouija and Unfriended Bye Bye Man that all thought they were being serious. But those are just fucking terrible ass movies. And a lot of sequels. I would rather watch this than say Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X or Halloween 4 up until the last one came out. I do like 2018, I will say that. But virtually almost every Halloween film after part 2. Most of the Elm Streets. Like this has that cheesy cult film entertainment value that a lot of real shitty sequels don't have. I still like to think of this film by itself, but I mean, Eric Freeman with his delivery and his eyebrows, a couple scenes of, or a couple pieces of the music, they work, but yeah, this is not a good movie. I did not mean for this to go on for 30 minutes. There's not a whole lot to say, but yeah, that is... So, if this thing will work, or if I can find the side with the button on it. I really need to get a better setup. You guys don't need to be sitting here waiting for me to do this every time. But anyway, that's 1987's Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. If you're a fan of it, hey, all the power to... I know it has a cult following. I know there's fans out there. But I can agree it is entertaining. But with that, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Thank you for watching.